To the point, Peter, domestic violence, family violence, it continues to be a big issue in Australia. One, governments really haven't yet got their head around how they're going to solve it and how they're going to help people who are affected by it.
At least we're now talking about it, though, Christina, because that's
right.
a far cry from in years gone by. So it's, I mean, I'm certainly not forgiving the fact that we're not further down the pathway on this, but at least we are on the pathway. Indeed.
And one of the big areas that comes into this is the family law system. The Parliament's about to launch an inquiry into how the family law system can better work to support victims of family violence. The chair of that inquiry is Sarah Henderson, and she joins us on To The Point. Sarah, thanks for joining us on the program.
My pleasure. Good afternoon, Christina. Good afternoon, Peter.
Sarah, what will this inquiry specifically be looking at? I mean, what are the issues where you see that the family law system interacts with people who are experiencing family violence?
Well, the committee members are very concerned about this issue, and might I say this is a reference from the Attorney-General. And while the government has done a lot of work in this space, including law reform, this is an inquiry into how we can improve the family law system to support and protect those affected by family violence. So we're focusing on a number of different issues. Those issues include assessing family violence earlier in the proceedings, looking at how consent orders are given to ensure that primarily women are not entering into consent orders and jeopardising the safety of themselves or their children. We're also having a particular look at the cross-examination issue by perpetrators when, of course, there are self-represented litigants. And we're also looking at the issue of family violence in the context of property division, which is not really a specific area that the court ordinarily considers when deciding on property division. Another very significant issue is the potential for the national administration and enforcement of intervention orders, or AVOs, as they are known in some states. So it is comprehensive, but we are reaching out to all Australians, and there's we're not just taking submissions, but we're also published a questionnaire asking for everyone's feedback who's been affected.
How important has the work of our former Australian of the Year, Rosie Batty, and her campaign on domestic violence been to some of the underpinnings of what you're looking to do? Indeed, the general community recognition of how serious an issue this is and how pervasive it is as well. It doesn't just affect particular cohorts in our community. I mean, she is widely held up for the work that she has done, and rightly so. How important has it been?
Peter, I think it's been extraordinarily important. Rosie Batty has shown amazing bravery. I've attended a number of talks where she's spoken with extraordinary bravery. I don't know how she manages to keep things together after what she's endured in losing her incredibly precious son, Luke. But she has been an absolute leader across this nation. I've met with Rosie. I've talked to her about the potential for this inquiry. I know there's a very big focus for her on the administration of intervention orders. In her case, the system dramatically failed her. But I say I salute her, but I salute so many women and sometimes men who've spoken out on this issue. Let's not forget that of the police attendances, they're taking up their time by almost a third with family violence incidents. More than on average, one woman every week is dying in a family violence incident. And Peter, I've spoken myself about a dear friend who was murdered in the United States, a very close friend of my sister's, and it touches nearly every family right around this nation.
I think that's exactly right, and most of us have known someone or been related to someone who has gone through domestic violence. Does it disturb you that there are still naysayers who seem to not exactly the statistic that you just went to about how many women die per week at the hands of domestic violence? It strikes me as unbelievable, frankly, that there are still some people that, you know, are almost rebelling against the seriousness of what this is. How do you overcome that?
I'm not hearing too many of those voices. I think we've come a long way, and if I consider the $200 million more investment that this government has announced, it was one of the very first announcements that Prime Minister Turnbull made. Of course, the Attorney-General has also announced a review of Part 7 of the Family Law Act. He's also announced some changes to the Family Law Act, and there's been some excellent work done by the Family Law Council and also in Victoria, the Family Violence Royal Commission. So we're building on the work that's already been done. But I must say, Peter, I think a lot of that has changed quite quickly. We now recognise as a government that this really is a national crisis for so many families. And I commend the Attorney-General for providing us with this reference. We are delighted to do this work. It will be gruelling. We are reaching out to all Australians to tell us their story. The message from our inquiry is your voice matters. So we do hope that we receive a wide range of submissions and also many people filling out the questionnaire so we can really make a difference.
Sarah, you mentioned that questionnaire there. As I understand it, can be done anonymously. What is the closing date and how do people get more information about this inquiry?
Well, they can go to a website which is aph.gov.au/FV, law reform, FV meaning family violence. So if they go to that website, the terms of reference are there, Christina, the questionnaire, how to make submissions which close on the 3rd of May, and also the media release that we've announced today. So we've got a very strong focus on reaching out to everyone affected by family violence, not just in the federal family law system, but of course, as I mentioned, with respect to state and territory intervention orders and apprehended violence orders. So all that information is on the website.
All right, Sarah Henderson, thanks so much for joining us and To The Point.
Thanks for your company.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thanks, Christina.
Okay, we are now.
Why isn't she on the front bench?